This meeting of Eureka Springs City Council come to order. Clerk, call roll, please.
Back. Terry McClung.
I'm here.
Joyce Eller. Here. David Mitchell.
Here.
James DeVito.
Here.
Mickey Schneider. Here. Dee Perkypile.
Here.
Six.
Everybody stand for the pledge to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, moves us on to approval of the agenda.
Somebody shut that door,
Motion
please.
to discuss.
Does that TV have to be that loud, or does it only have one setting?
That's the way it sounds all the time.
It can go down, but they never
Diane.
do if there's people all over.
Yeah.
Okay, need a motion to discuss in a second.
So moved. Second.
Okay, I need to add an item to number one, new business, to be Raven and Yip, who are in the hallway, about the stairways, the artwork on the stairways. They need to bring it to the council tonight.
And you want to be number one?
Number one.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
just because they're
Okay.
here and they need to get
Sure.
going, and
Sure.
then that'll make y'all
Artwork on
next
the
one
stairway.
for new business, okay?
The fish pictures on the stairs.
Okay, and that's the only one I have.
Postpone.
Yes. Also need to postpone number 7, third quarter financials. And then, of course, number 4 is already postponed, appraisal of the fire stations. And if anybody else here?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we just got the new draft, I think, on number 2 old business, the multifamily ordinance from the Planning Commission. Could we postpone that again? So I've not had a chance to look at it. I don't think anybody else has either.
Say something about that.
Yes, go ahead.
It's the one that was read one time. There have not been any changes to it since you saw it last.
It's just sort of like a history of the whole thing.
And I think Ms. Green was going to give us an update, so it's up to you.
It was just, I didn't know what was behind it or what. I
Okay.
didn't know if there were any changes or
Okay,
not. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to
Okay,
read it. So.
You want to follow through with that?
Just additional
Well,
information.
apparently everybody's satisfied to go ahead, so that's fine.
I don't
Okay,
think
so
I'll withdraw.
we have a number 1, number 7 postponed, number 4 postponed. Any others? Okay, all in favor of the amended agenda, say aye. Like sign for no? Okay. Moves on to approval of the minutes for October the 13th, 2014.
Move to approve.
Second.
Changes, deletions, corrections? If not, all in favor of the minutes being approved, say aye.
Aye.
All of those that are not in favor of, say no. Moves us on to commission, committee, authority reports, expired terms. I don't think we have anybody here from any of the commissions to make any reports. Okay, so that'll move us on to public comments. Do we have a board? Who? Okay, number 1 is Trace Ellen Kelly.
Okay, my name is Trace Ellen Kelly. I work for the Good Shepherd Humane Society, and I'm here also for myself. The Good Shepherd Humane Society would like me to read you a resolution that they did, and I passed one out to everybody. To Mayor Morris, Pat, and Alderman of the City of Eureka Springs. Pate, sorry. Whereas Article 2, Section 2 of the bylaws of the Good Shepherd Humane Society, Inc., state one of the purposes of the society is to advocate for the prevention of cruelty to animals through all legal means and to encourage the adoption and enforcement of laws to protect animals from mistreatment. And whereas abuse, negligent confinement, or mistreatment of animals in circuses has been well documented, and whereas the city Council of Eureka Springs is considering an ordinance prohibiting circuses that use animals for entertainment from performing within the city limits. Therefore, the Board of Directors of the Good Shepherd Humane Society, Inc. do hereby resolve to support and encourage such ordinances and regulations that will help prevent abuse, mistreatment, and cruelty to animals. Such as ordinances and regulations are consistent with the mission of the Good Shepherd Humane Society. That's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sue Ewan? Sue Ewan? Hey,
Hi,
am I saying the last name right?
Ewan.
Ewan, okay, I got it right.
That was very good. Sue Ewan, and I'm back
Step to the mic, listen to me.
to speak to you all again about, I'm just here to ask you all to please pass this ordinance against the circus. It's just something that I don't think belongs in our town. It's too beautiful here. It's too nice of a place, animal friendly. So it's just a basic thing. I don't have any stats or anything to give you, but just think about it that way if you would. I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Is this your husband?
Yeah.
Sam, will you send him out, please? Sure. Sam Ewan? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm Sam Ewan, and I want to thank all you here for making this town so nice. I moved here in November, and I think it's the coolest town I've ever seen or been around. And I tell you, I hope you don't allow the circus, because I don't think it's the top values I've seen around here. And so I'm just putting in my 2 cents. I'm totally against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Melissa Green?
Melissa Green, 17 Bridge Street. First, I'd like to say, other than the Humane Society of Eureka Springs, I'm not affiliated with any other animal organizations. I just care about animals. I want to also thank the newspapers for their fairness in giving each side of this a chance to speak. What I'd like to bring up is just, I'd like to reiterate. Barbara Bird wrote an article in the Citizen. She signed it as she's the vice president of Carson Barnes. She's not only that, she's also the owner. She talks about acceptable and humane treatment. Acceptable and humane is prison lingo. She floats over the USDA, but the USDA has had 114 violations against Carson Barnes against the Animal Welfare Act. 10 of the citations came in August 2011 through April 2012, not even 8 months. The USDA is not allowed into the training sessions. The training sessions are quite a bit different, but they have documented what the evidence of the abuse. She invites you to come out to the circus and see how well the animals are. She says, i.e. buy a ticket, doesn't offer to let us come to any of the training sessions. She says activists want to eliminate the connections between humans and animals. We're not supposed to be connected with animals except for the ones that have been domesticated for tens of thousands of years. The rest of them we coexist with. Jerry Mulligan, who was here at the last meeting from the circus, he talks about how they breed animals. They take the babies away from their mothers so that they don't have a mother. They have a human as a mother, to the great stress of the mother. This is what they do to babies. This is how they're chained and how they're treated. Oops. He also talked about what they do out of their 96% of the time. They're in cages or on chains 96% of the time. He said R&R for them, they're 4% of the time that they get to perform, or else they get to set up the circus tent. Not a great life. There was another article in the paper saying that we are a small minority in this town of animal lovers. How come we have more pets than we have residents in this town? How come we have 5 to 6 rescue organizations inside of this town? We have Turpentine Creek. That's where these circus animals should be. They should be at a wildlife preserve. They should be at a sanctuary. They shouldn't be being tortured. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing that to me is kind of telling. It's a picture of a polar bear. I guess he's got ice skates on because, he's from up there. Pushing, probably his hands are tied to that sled. But the kindest thing I can say about this is the polar bear has a muzzle on, and that might mean, I'm hoping it means, that he didn't have his teeth surgically removed. Thank you.
Richard Bricks.
Rachel Bricks, One Magnetic. Carson & Barnes has been around for 78 years. Well, the tobacco companies have been around just as long, and they're not doing anybody any good either. But instead of lie, they admit that cigarettes will kill you. However, the circus hides behind spin doctors. With the revenue on the decline, reputation in question, and constant pressure from animal advocates, one would think the circuses would stand up and refute our supposedly baseless claims and shut us up. But they can't. Because you can't find a single picture of a joyous circus animal. You can't find a single video of positive reinforcement circus training. But you can find tons of proof that the circus so steadfastly denies the abuse, mental distress, cruel confinement, inhumane restraints, travel conditions, public safety risks, injuries, and deaths. All recorded, all documented. Circuses claim they provide the necessary interaction between exotic animals and people, especially children. The truth is that the circus enslaves and prostitutes animals for money. There is nothing educational about animals sitting on stools, bears riding bicycles, and tigers jumping through fire. In fact, this type of behavior is completely unnatural and provides nothing more than a distorted and perverted view of the very animals circuses claim to be protecting. Barbara Bird, owner of Carson & Barnes, maintains their USDA license is in good standing, and yes, it is. Since the fines for the consistent violations over the past several decades are always paid. It's important to note that no government agency monitors training sessions or performances where the abuse takes place, which allows the circus to continue its lies. Ms. Bird claims trainers teach animals based on reward and repetition. How does this bullhook, the most widely used training tool, especially for elephants, fit into the reward and repetition method? Ms. Bird says it is the animal activist's goal to eliminate all connections between humans and animals. This simply is another non-truth. ADI, the ASPCA, Born Free, etc., countless others seek to protect helpless, voiceless animals from greedy, self-serving people. I remind you that 27 countries and 21 U.S. states already have full or partial bans on circuses, and our Congress is currently considering a similar bill. So, Ms. Bird, I ask you, is it just your circus that people are mistaken about? Council, I respectfully implore you to finish what you started. Your unanimous vote to draft this ordinance shows you understand, it shows you care, and it shows you won't be swayed by circus politicians. And that you realize the circus is not part of our animal-loving town's culture, nor can it convincingly contribute to our economy. Let's please join 21 other states and be the first in Arkansas to say no to the circus. Thank you.
Okay, there's no more public comments. Moves us on to unfinished business. Discussion of number 1, the yard waste. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open.
Dwayne and I have been going physically, walking around, checking stuff, weighing pros and cons, coming up with ideas. And the thing that we're working on right now, besides the problem with the vines, which would mean either a burning permit, which he is now talking with the people to come up with an ordinance. As I stated last time, I don't have it in front of me, but in order to get this ability to burn like once a month, it has to be for the welfare of the people. He is looking into his part of going into that so we can bring something to the city attorney. In the meantime, we have a problem in regards to bamboo that I was not aware of. When you burn bamboo, it explodes. I had no idea. So no, we don't want to be burning bamboo because we're talking like a 20-foot explosion of flying material. This is not cool. So on Saturday, during our craft fair at Pine Mountain, I went around to all of the wood crafting booths and talked with all of them to find out, because I know very little about bamboo, to find out if woodworkers could work with bamboo. And all of them said yes. And Dwayne and I had talked about if our yard workers bring in to Public Works their regular yard waste that goes for mulching, vines will go into a special area for either burning or its own personal decomposition, and another place would be set aside for bamboo. Then the woodworkers could come and pick up all the bamboo they wanted to use to make wood crafts. And charge. And we would get our bamboo taken care of, and everybody would be happy little campers. So that's where we are right now.
Mr. McClung?
You can still burn privately inside the city limits.
I don't think so.
Only with a permit.
You've got to get a permit.
If it's yard
Okay.
waste, I don't think you can burn it, period, inside the city limits.
Fire department
think
I
so.
know has to be notified and stuff.
But yeah, you
You'd
just
have
got
to
to
go back and
all
look
you
at
got
all
to do is
of
get a permit from the fire department. That's all. I mean, I know that because I checked on it just the other day.
Okay.
That's all you got to have. So,
For
you
what
know,
are we talking about?
to
though?
burn
To burn what?
leaves, yard waste.
I don't think so.
I do think so. It's not to burn trash.
Okay.
You can't burn your garbage. You can burn your yard waste.
Seems to me our yard workers would be doing that if they could, because this has become such a problem.
I called up there the other day to check on one, and they said all they got to do is get a permit to burn.
And they can do this as often as they want?
I didn't hear anything about being a limitation.
Where did you call?
The fire department.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Mr. Mitchell?
I think it'd be great to hear from Dwayne Allen and his final
We'll
recommendation.
find out.
Yeah.
Any further?
No, I just bringing forward the
Okay.
latest information.
No further, we'll move on to number 2, discussion of ordinance 2214, the multifamily ordinance. I think this is the third reading.
Second.
Second.
Yes, Mr.
Make a motion to place ordinance number 2214 on its second reading. Let's just do it that way. Now, let me rephrase that. Move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2214 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
Just stand by.
Ms. Schneider?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
I'd like to discuss. Can we not discuss first? I'm
This
sorry.
is to do it, to
In
read.
order to discuss, we got to do this.
We have to vote to do it before we can discuss.
Okay. I apologize then.
So both of us did.
You vote, sir?
Sure, yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes?
Mr. Perkypah?
Yes.
Ms. Eller?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell, go ahead.
Ms. Green is here from planning,
Oh, she
and
has
she
to-
was going to give us a brief update on this.
I'm going to
as
read it
to-
first.
Point of procedure.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Ordinance 2214, an ordinance dealing with multifamily dwellings in Eureka Springs.
Go ahead.
You sent it back to us, and we sent it back without any changes at the last meeting. What we did is we listened to the public, and they wanted us to explore duplexes and single family rentals. And since multifamily is different than a single family rental, we decided to send this back to you for approval and that we would start working on the duplexes and single families.
Question?
Any questions?
Apparently not.
Okay.
All right, Mr. McClung. Thank you.
Again, I think that this ordinance is not really appropriate. I don't think what is already happening, which is I was afraid would happen, was that the duplexes and the single families would be drawn in right behind it, where they are historically not to require a business license, and I don't think it's a good thing. I just really don't. I'm just not for it.
The motion before us is dealing with multifamily dwellings. We don't know what planning will do regarding duplexes or single-family dwellings. That's another issue, and I personally agree that they don't fall under the same categories as multifamily dwellings. Personally, I see this as an opportunity for us to take a look at what some of the housing here in town is, and it has nothing to do with the present owners. This only happens on transfer of ownership, so there's no onus on who is owning this property right now. Inspections for safety standards only would occur on transfer of the property. So this doesn't affect the present owners other than a nominal, and I repeat, a nominal fee. It's pretty inconsequential when you think about a multifamily dwelling and how much rent is taken in. So this is not an effort to raise revenue for the city. Yes, that revenue will help to offset the paperwork necessary at City Hall, but we have to have standards that people live under regarding smoke alarms and safety exits and proper living conditions, and as I stated before, this does not reflect on the present ownership and only occurs when the property sells and prior to the new tenant or prior to the new owners taking control of it.
Ms. Schneider?
I'm still having a problem with an owner of several properties or units having to have more than one business license. Or am I wording it wrong? Is it one person who owns 3 properties or who has 5 units should not have to have one for every single one of them? If you're doing this, you get a business license.
Mr. DeVito?
It would be for the building itself that houses multiple units. If you've got 3 units with 5 units in each one, yeah, it would be a separate charge for each of those. But that would be standard with any business in the city. If I own 3 restaurants, I would expect to pay licensing fees on each of the restaurants that I own, and each multiple family unit is designated as a single unit.
Anybody else?
I'm not clear, and maybe I'm just not seeing it. What constitutes a multi-family dwelling? How many units do you have to have
3 or more
in the complex to be a multi-family
3 or
unit?
more
3 or more?
per building.
3 or more per building, and then it takes 1 license per building.
Location. Yeah. Location, address.
Well, I got a lot of calls on this, and when we were discussing it before, and this doesn't require any inspection or any sort of thing unless the building is sold, right?
Correct.
I don't know. Is this a necessary thing, or are we just again over legislating? I'm not sold on the necessity for this. Can somebody tell me why this is necessary?
Mr. Mitchell.
I'm not going to answer her question, but I am going to ask Ms. Green one.
Okay.
Since she's here from planning, you did a public hearing.
Yes.
You had input from multi-family
Yes.
dwelling owners.
Yes.
Can you give us just a brief synopsis of how that ended?
I think most of them at first were against paying the license fee. But I will say, if you are paying a license fee of $75 a year, it works out to each tenant, like with 3, would be paying less than $2 if you pass it on to the renter. The reason I voted for it, because I had tempetation also too, is I like that eventually there will be the safety issue with it. I'm not for, making everybody get a business license for something they do. And as a courtesy, Terry, we are going to look at the duplexes and stuff, and that's not something I'm particularly enthralled with either. I'm kind of like Joyce. Maybe this is a little bit of over legislation and stuff, but I do personally like, as a planning commissioner, the safety issues of it.
So what are you saying? You sent it back to us for the second reading, and
Yes.
now I'm listening to you say you're not interested in the business license, but
Well,
you're interested in the safety. So help me out here.
Okay. I agreed when we voted on it, and it was unanimous, and I agreed with it. Personally, it's not something I would have started out with, but the rest of my commission was for it, and I have high respect for my commission, so I agreed with it. I did voice my temperation a couple times at different meetings.
Mr. McClung.
I believe that those owners that were in attendance were probably trying to get across the point that they don't want you to do this on multifamily or duplex or single family.
Right.
They weren't there to encourage you to proceed and legislate those. They were trying to discourage you from legislating against the multifamily.
Right.
Is that correct or no?
I believe so. I also had numerous calls of people that wanted and felt that, and basically safety was the issue. And
Property owners?
Yes, property owners, tourist lodging owners, people that are paying business license. No, I'm just saying, I had both sides calling me and talking to me.
I'm talking about people that are these type property owners.
You are correct. I did not have any property owners that were for it. Actually, most of them, they were not. They were fine with the safety issue. They were not happy with the licensing fee.
Ms. Schneider.
Well, from what I have understood, once we really got into this, since it's only going to be checked for safety when it changes hands, and since my understanding is you cannot get insurance to cover your property unless you meet the safety issues that are involved in this, the fire extinguisher, so on and so forth. If you don't have those 3 issues that we're talking about making sure they have, you can't get insurance. Who's going to own a property that you're renting to make money off of if you don't have insurance? Ergo, they're going to have the 3 requirements that are in here.
Mr. DeVito.
To answer Joyce's questions, we as a city council are impaneled for the health, safety, and welfare of the community. And if anything, this ordinance goes directly to that mandate: health, safety, and welfare.
In addition to requiring inspections to getting insurance? How does this add to it?
I have the floor, please.
Well, I'm asking you a question.
I have the floor, please.
Okay. So?
Mr. DeVito, go ahead.
Let me collect my thoughts, please. Just give me a
sir,
moment.
You said you had the floor. I'm giving you the opportunity. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, I understand that.
Thank you very much.
If I would not be interrupted, I'd be able to address this much better.
The meeting, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Very good.
As we stated before, this occurs at the transfer of ownership. The safety standards are paramount as our jurisdiction in the community. I've personally seen some of the apartments in this community, and they are appalling. People deserve better. They deserve safety. And if we don't look out for them, I don't know who will. This addresses the safety standards. It also addresses minimum square footage for people to live in. I know I've seen properties with 6.5-foot ceilings. Nobody should have to live in places like that. We've got to have standards in this community that people can live with dignity. And this is not intrusive. If you had a 3-unit multi-family housing, you would in effect have a $2 per month charge on each one of those units. I don't feel that's much of an encumbrance on the property owners. This is as minimal as we can get as a council to ensure some level of safety for the people who are at the lowest economic rung in this community. And they deserve our support and our protection, and that's why this ordinance is before us.
Mr. Mitchell.
Ditto exactly to what Mr. DeVito said. And let me sum up. If we can sit here and discuss, as we should, protecting elephants, I think we ought to be able to protect our citizens.
Mr. Perkins, your turn.
I think we should protect our citizens. That's one of the things we should be doing here. I don't see that this actually does that anytime soon. It might in the future when any of these people here or any of the other, what are there, 20 buildings? 20
I believe there's 10 that are grandfathered in R1, yes. I don't know about R2. Terry, maybe you would know that.
Well, my point is that none of these people here that were at your public hearing want this, and they appear, I think the turnover rate to actually obtain that safety, that smoke detector, et cetera, it's going to be a long time before it bears fruit.
Yes.
And that's not to say that it shouldn't be done at some point in time, but I think, is this something that we really need? I'm not so sure. So.
Ms. Eller?
As to the problem that Mr. DeVito addressed, this, since everything that we have going now that he is discussing, that he's seen and discussed and viewed with disgust, all of that is grandfathered in. So this ordinance doesn't pertain to anything that is for rent now in a multifamily dwelling. It only pertains to a building that is sold or one that is built from now on. Now, if you want to address the personal safety of the residents in rental housing in this town, then you're going to have to insist on some sort of an inspection before you have a right to have a license. And this doesn't do it. I just don't think that this accomplishes anything. I think we're just spinning our wheels by passing this. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Perkins.
I just want to add that I think the goal is laudable. I don't know that this is the right version of something like this. And I kind of agree with what you just said, Joyce, about, if the goal is to protect human life and safety, then let's do that in a way that can be effected in a reasonable amount of time.
Mr. DeVito.
So in the interim, until we do tackle that issue, and I have great trepidation that this council will do that, because we seem to be having a problem providing the very least minimum safety standards that we could possibly institute. And the people that weren't there at that public hearing are the people that have to live in these conditions. Nobody's speaking for them. They don't have a voice in this matter. And if we're only going to listen to the people in the business in this community, then we're only serving part of this population.
Our duty is to serve everybody's health, safety, and welfare. And this is a start. If at a later date council wants to take a larger step, I'll applaud them and support them on this issue. But right now, we're talking about the very least possible thing we can do. And to not do it in hopes that someday we're going to do something more proactive, I'll be around for that one.
Ms. Schneider.
I have been a number one advocate of safety for our people for a really, really long time. I tried, when this first came up, I tried to get this to where we could go in once a year, but that's illegal. We can't do that. We can't do anything unless it changes hands. And that has nothing to do with us trying to protect our people. But unless we hear from people saying we do not have these things, and then go to those insurance companies and say, have you inspected? You've got them under insurance, and they say they have them, and people living there say they don't. That's the only way I can see that we could actually get around this to find out who does or does not have these safety issues. In the meantime, if we're going to be looking into the duplexes, the singles, the whole 9 yards, why aren't we doing one whole massive thing at one time that specifies all in one ordinance, all the stuff?
Mr. Vito.
We have the ability at a later date to amend this ordinance to provide those conditions. But right now before you, you have a very minimum with the least bit of intrusion to any business owner in this community that has a multifamily dwelling. So that's all I have to say on this matter.
Any further from anybody else?
Do we know that there are no safety issues in
Snyder,
any of these
who
places?
are you addressing, Ms. Snyder?
How do you know?
Are you addressing?
My hand
Yes,
is up. Yeah.
I know.
How does anybody know if these places do not, in fact, have the safety issues we're talking about?
There's nothing on the city books. There's no city ordinances regulating them in any shape, manner, form, or function.
So, in other words, what I'm saying is, how do we know all of these safety features aren't already in all of these places? Do we know that for a fact? Have we had people come forward and complain or say, I feel unsafe? Do we know if these issues are, these items and stuff are not there?
Mr. Mitchell.
Every year, they come for bed and breakfast and inspect the fire extinguishers. They check to see that the smoke detectors are there, that they're working, that they're hardwired and they're battery operated. If tourist lodging and bed and breakfast have a minimum safety standard for the people that rent those rooms, you would think that the residents in this town deserve the same level of safety. And my question will be to Mrs. Green, who represents planning. Planning sent this back to us unchanged by a majority vote.
Yes. Unanimous.
To continue with our action for a second reading, correct?
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you.
it wasn't unanimous because I had to vote present because it was coming here.
Did I say unanimous? I didn't mean
May I make
majority.
May I make a comment? On the books, Dick Titus called me and sent me on our books. Now, Jim Morse refudicates it, but on our city code books, there is a law that says that a building inspector may go into a building from 8:30 to 5:30. He wrote that about 20 years ago, and it's in our book. Now, Jim Morse, our chair, says no. That's it's people's rights. I think the reason that we passed this and sent it back, and Mickey did vote present, but the rest of the commission voted unanimously, was because of the safety. The business license, like I said, I don't care if people have to pay money. It's a way of keeping track of things. I think James is correct. I think that this is a start for the safety of the people in this town that rent. And there are some abominable rental places. So maybe this is a start.
Any further? All right. Go ahead.
I'm assuming there's a difference between tourist lodging and resident rentals?
Yes.
And because the tourist lodging, it's an overturn, that's why they can go in once a year and check, as opposed to an apartment someone's living in?
Mickey, I'm not sure on that. It's just something I am required by law to do.
Tell you how that applies. I'm going to call the question.
Well, what the point of that was, if we already have the right to do it on B&Bs and tourist rentals,
Yes, I know.
why can't we do it on the
All right.
multifamilies?
The question's been called. We need to take a vote. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Actually, there's not a motion on the floor yet.
Okay, Liddy.
I had a motion to place it on a second reading by title only.
Right?
That's the motion.
That was voted.
And it
Yeah,
had
we voted on that. Yeah, there is no motion currently on the table.
Now we
So-
pass
We
the
did
motion.
that.
another motion.
You did a roll call because it was suspended. Yes, sir, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2214 on its second reading.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
No.
Roll call. Stand by.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Eller,
No.
Miss Schneider,
No?
Mr. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Perkypile,
No.
Mr. McClung,
No.
2-4.
Motion fails. Okay. Moves us on to, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Moves us on to number 3, Hospital Commission response on recording meetings. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Your second?
Oh, second, sorry.
Okay. I did not get to attend the meeting, but Mr. Mitchell was at the meeting. So, Mr. Mitchell, would you go ahead and
Yes,
address
sir. The Hospital Commission had a very good discussion about it. They're very comfortable with where they meet. They understand the reason that the request was made. They feel that they can meet the needs of the council and the public by keeping everybody informed, by producing reports and or coming here in person as we progress through this process and keep the public and everybody informed either under the Hospital Commission and or an agenda topic. But they really want to stay in their current space where they're at this time, and they're very comfortable with it, but they will definitely be more communicative as we're going through the process. We also need to remember that basically after the council approves the sewer line and all that works out legitimately, this is a private company that's buying private land, building a private hospital, so the city has no dog in this fight, and neither does the Hospital Commission at this point in time after they get off the lease with the city. But the Hospital Commission will keep us informed. At this point in time, Chris, the attorney for Allegiance, is doing the draft contract with the city, and he has worked with our city attorney, and we should be getting a draft back for us to look at here probably this next week is what I was told this week. It's coming back. And at this time, it behooves us to let Allegiance make the first stab towards something for us to look at. So we will be, there he is. So Chris can update us.
Okay. Do we want to just slide into number 4? Because we'll have to do it. Yes, sir.
Go into it.
Well, I'd be a lot more comfortable in another location than this room, quite frankly, if that's something that we could be meeting somewhere else. I mean, if comfort is the reason, I don't find that to be a good enough reason for a city commission to meet on private property without the overview of the citizenry that they're supposed to represent. Now, if someone is willing to provide a visual and an audio tape of that meeting that can be replayed on public television, I'll drop my conditions regarding that. But I don't think it's fair to the community that people can meet in a private facility and we not have a
conscientious recording of all that transpires at a city commission.
Mr. Mitchell?
With all due respect, I disagree with that. You haven't had any concern for 1,800 years now, so
Well,
why get excited? Why get excited now? And on top of it, as soon as Allegiance is able to build the new hospital, we're not going to have a commission anyway, unless they're going to just sit around and watch over some money. So there's not going to be a whole lot of excitement going on to record it.
Ms. Snyder?
There's lots and lots of room where they're meeting now for the public. If anybody's interested in going, there's tons of room. The reporters are there. The mayor is there. Invariably, council people are there. Plenty of people are there. So we always know what's going on. And it's not like they've been trying to hide anything from us.
Mr. McClung?
Isn't there an audio recording?
It's a digital. I think they use a digital recorder.
They didn't this last time. So.
Okay.
Wouldn't that be
Any further?
Would that be sufficient?
I'm sure they can afford to record it.
I think that would be sufficient. So you've got record of it.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes, if they're willing to provide a recording that we can play on the public television so that the public can access what's happening with one of their own commissions, then there shouldn't be an issue here. I think if you polled most people in this community, they wouldn't even know we have a hospital commission, and there's a reason for that.
Any further? All right, no further, we'll move on to number 4, update on status of new hospital. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open. Mr. Mitchell?
I'd like to allow Chris to give us an update, if you don't mind.
Well, as Mr. Mitchell was saying, I spoke with Rick Reynolds this past Friday, and the development, I was hoping to have something for you today.
Who is Rick Reynolds?
Rick Reynolds is he's our employed attorney. So he is actually an employee of Allegiance Health Management. So we basically defer all contract processes to him. And basically I place myself as the middleman now in this process as to getting in touch with him, getting in touch with the city attorney, and getting everyone together to get this developed as soon as possible. Because time is ticking. We continue to have this an extension in our contract for the piece of property that we're looking for, and we're delaying it as the days go on. We have a deadline set with CMS of April 2016, so we're hoping to get definitely try to break ground soon. So what we're hoping to do is develop this agreement between the city and Allegiance Health Management so that EUREKA can start building their hospital. And to do that, we're definitely going to have to get our two attorneys together, develop that for the city council to review, and to blue line it and let us know what in detail you need for both parties to agree. Because it's a huge investment for both parties.
Questions? Ms. Snyder?
Okay, so how many billions are you spending on building the hospital?
You can estimate. If you look it up online, and I'm not an architect or an engineer, I'm just a hospital administrator. So when I look it up online, it averages from anywhere from $300 to $350 a square foot, depending on what you build. Now, the plans that is, if you read in, I think it was in the minutes, we discussed what our dream hospital is, and that was my job to give to the company. As to what we want here in the city. Remember, I get paid by Eureka Springs Hospital. I'm a liaison. Yes, Allegiance runs and manages the hospital, but I'm the CEO of the hospital. So I'm working as a liaison between the city and the company. So what I'm hoping is we're offering as many services as possible to basically get into one facility. Now, will that happen? I can't say 100% sure. After they go into budgets and say what they can afford and what they can't afford, what they want to build, what they don't want to build, there's certain ways you can go around it.
Okay, the basic price that was given at one of our meetings, which included tons of services, was like $20 million plus.
That's a guesstimate.
And that was with all the extras and everything. Now, do you have a figure for the basic critical care hospital situation? Just a round figure.
I mean, if you're defining a basic critical access hospital, what is that? ER, acute care?
I don't know. That's what you guys
I mean,
were
that's
talking about.
What I proposed to the company, and what our first draft of the first phase of the program, the architects call it, is what we need to provide for the community and what we want. Because basically what we're doing is we're leasing, we've got 3 different spaces we lease, and there's a few others I want to say, and so we want to definitely develop something where we can put all those together and we don't have to lease space around the city anymore, and they better accommodate your patients.
So you don't have just at least a starting point on what it's going to cost to start to build?
Right now, our guesstimate of how big it is 69,000 square feet of what we want. That's 69,000 square feet. So multiply that by 350, and that's your cost of what you research. After I've researched that online. Now, what we're going to build, I mean, when you build something, you're approved for so much money, and then something could happen. I can't really speculate.
Okay, well, this segues into the next part of the question, which is, considering that's how much money y'all are planning on spending on this, why are you asking the city to do the sewer lines, which is like $1 million, $1.5 million round figures, when normally this is done by any entity who's building?
So most entities that build here run sewage lines from...
Not here, anywhere. I mean, I've been confused.
So they go on public property and run sewage lines? I'm not familiar with it, so you'll have to educate me on that.
Somebody here can explain it better than I can, but yeah, they put in water sewer lines, whatever, turn it over to the city. I don't know.
Okay. Mr.
But
Mitchell?
that's my question is, why aren't you
Ms.
doing
Snyder's question, that's not the industry standard. I just, as I retired 6 years ago from Great Plains Regional in Elk City, and we just finished building a $65 million hospital, the city ran all the utilities, the sewer, the water, to the edge of the property line. Sayre, that was the next over community, built a critical access hospital, 25 beds. They didn't put in any ORs, but they had the emergency room and everything required by CMS, and they hit almost $20 million just to do the basics. And that construction at the time was real expensive. Copper was through the roof, and it was going higher steel. It was a rough time, and they had to, their contingency was eaten up quite a bit. But the city came in and did that. We were very lucky in Elk City, and that the city also came in, believe it or not, redid the whole parking lot and actually blacktopped all of our parking lot for the private hospital. So that was remarkable that the city actually extended themselves past and did a lot more. So in reference to just running the basic water sewer to be sure the water's there in the sewer, I think we're getting off very reasonable, considering that a private LLC company is coming into town, is willing to probably put up somewhere between 16, 20 million, give or take, roughly, putting in a hospital, and it's going to cost us 1.5 million in sewer. That's a pretty good deal.
Okay, Mr. Perkby, you had your hand. Mr. McClung.
Well, I was just going to say, in addition to that, if we were a town that had an industrial park and a company came and wanted to build here, but they wanted some kind of tax incentives, something of that nature. We don't really have anything like that we offer. But like what this is really that kind of a thing. And the incentive we have, if that was something and say, well, there's no way we can do this, or we're not going to do this, it's like giving them an incentive to do this because we want it here. I want it here.
Oh, I do too.
And,
okay, but that's what I was asking, because nobody's been able to give a straight answer when I know a lot of places do that. What's another million on top of
They'd give the right arm to have a hospital. So,
Mr. Perkby, you were next.
Yes, sir. Chris.
Yes, sir.
So, give us your feeling on your company. Give us a feeling on what the percentage is that this project will actually go through, because that's what this comes down to. what the city wants to do is, there's a need for a critical care access or a hospital facility here. The location, I don't know if that's the best location in the world, but it is a location and it is available. So can you tell us that, because what we're doing right now is we're saying, okay, we're putting our cards down and we're saying we'll do this, but you got to show us something that you're proceeding with, plans, specifications. That's the thing that I think in this correspondence that went around to the rest of the council was that the attorney that you mentioned, or somebody in that chain of command, mentioned that there were plans and specifications already on the table. But then in other communication, it indicated that there were no plans and specifications, that you had to get started on it. So it would be really beneficial. I'm an engineer. I'm a civil engineer by trade. It'd be really beneficial if we could have something to show the city that, by golly, we're going to build it. We're not trying to force your hand or anything, but we really need something, that says, this is what we'd like to do. This is the site plan here. Nothing more than a site plan. That would be beneficial.
Okay. And once on the present site, we haven't done much of the planning, other than what we had done on the previous site, which is
Victoria.
The
Victorian end now.
We had a contract on the previous site,
Okay.
which landed into the mileage restriction. I'm sure everybody's read about that.
Okay.
So basically, what we've done is we've finished what the Morrison Group had called the phase one of the program. So basically, it's in detail, and I can print that out, let you guys look at it. What it is in detail, what we want in a hospital. It's in words. There's no drawings. There's no specifications on this specific piece of property, because we haven't moved forward, because we know what we have to do before we move forward and expend any of that money. We spent a significant amount of money on the previous site, and then it basically just went to waste, with the exception of the phase one of the program. So basically what we have is a description of what we want to build as a facility and as an administrator of a hospital. Now, when we're done, the architects will draw that up, look at the current proposed land, and then we'll move to specs from there, is what I've been told.
Plans and specifications.
And so then it will go to the company, where they're going to look at it and say, okay, well, what's a figure for this? What's a ballpark figure it's going to mean to cost? What's the budget going to be for this? So therefore, that's when we're going to have to negotiate as a facility. This is what we need here. And so we're going to have to go to bat with each different service. Now, Allegiance knows you have to have certain services in the hospital for it to be an efficient run program. And that's what I think 90% of that, what we proposed in the phase one of the program, it's in that context. Now, there are other specifications in there that a shell of 2 other clinics. Well, we're going to probably build a shell of 2 clinics. We're not going to fully build it for when the need is there to bring in another physician. Then we'll build the second clinic, and then we'll build the third clinic. So that's in there for the future of that facility.
Let me follow up on that. Were any plans and specifications drawn up for the Victorian Inn site?
Not to my knowledge.
So it was really just as you call it, a phase one, just an initial, just a description of what you would like and the basic square. Did you have a footprint or anything that you thought you might?
No, we basically, once we finish we've got it in tablet form. I mean, like I said, it's just words, description of bed size, square footage, all that. Once we were at that point, that's when the OIG came out with with the report.
So what I'm trying to get to is get you guys to commit to doing something so that we can commit to you for that. And that's where this is all kind of hinging right now. We need to see some forward movement on that. And I may be overstepping my place here at the table, but that's just the way I would see it if I were the engineer in charge of this.
Mr. Mitchell.
And we will see it because we did a resolution to start the process, and now we're very close to contractually laying out